Okay. All right. Got you. All right. Let's see. How much time do you have?
Um, However long you need. It doesn't really matter.
You're not
I'm
working
quarantined
today?
anyways, so I am, but my sister and I are both teachers and we're both sharing one computer, and right now she's on a conference call and God knows how long that's gonna go for. So my students are just gonna have to wait.
You need a new laptop.
I do. I need a lot of new things.
Okay. Do you wanna? I don't know. Do you wanna introduce yourself or something?
um yeah, I'm Travis Phillips. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna try and take you seriously, Anthony, for an
You don't
hour.
have to.
Sorry, Mr.
I.
Jewett. Mr. Jewett. Um,
It's okay. Make this feel natural. Don't be weird.
okay, okay. Let me be natural. Give me a second. Woo, woo. Okay,
Okay,
I'm
you're
natural. I'm natural.
Travis. Travis
Yes,
Phillips.
I'm Travis Phillips. I went to college with you at the University of Dallas. I was a sculpture major there. Um, I grew up in Texas. I went to college in Texas. As a post grad, I'm working in Texas. So, yeah.
So I did something. So you and I went to school together. Um, we were roommates for 2 years. Um, I did something with my students. Let me see. I'm gonna try to share the screen. Can you see this?
Oh, actually, I can. Here, let me turn my phone sideways. Yeah, I can.
Oh, I don't want you to see my email. Whoops. Okay, can you see that?
Jesus, yeah.
All right.
He's got a globe,
So
a
I
crystal
did this
ball.
with I did this with my classes. You I have zero art experience. Well, so just to preface this, you and I, the only art class that we really took together, that we studied together, was art and architecture in Rome. Oh, I lost you. Oh, there you are. Art and
Yeah,
architecture
sorry,
in Rome, right?
I'm following me. Yes, we took art and architecture together in Rome. Yeah, I think that was the only art history class we took.
Yeah. Now you took a lot. You studied art a lot because you were an art major. So you probably know this stuff a lot.
Sorry, if you lost me again, it's because I'm getting calls. Okay.
Okay. Um,
I'm very popular.
I'm sure.
You don't know how hard this is to do this for you, Anthony. Just know how big of a favor I'm doing right now.
I know. Thank
I have
you.
a million other
Thanks a lot.
things I could be doing right now during quarantine.
Well, you know what? It doesn't matter. I put this up on YouTube and none of my students watch it anyway. So we'll see. We'll see who watches this. Oh, that reminds me. I need help from you later on, but I'll get to that in a second.
Okay. Okay.
Um, so you know art way better than I do, right? Art history, and you definitely know art history better than any of my students. But we did this anyway. So I would say you're at least more of an authority on art than us. Would you agree
I'll
with
take
that?
it.
Okay.
Um, I like the compliments, yes.
So I'm going to show you 5 famous paintings. You probably know who these are. You know your artists, right?
Yes. Okay, I'm still seeing Jesus with the crystal ball.
Right. Okay. So I mean the quality is pretty bad, but hopefully you can see that pretty clearly. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I hear you fine. Can you hear me fine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Um so this painting, do you know who painted this?
I'm gonna give a wild guess and say Da Vinci.
Yeah. Okay. Remember Da Vinci. All right. So
Da
I'm going to move
Vinci.
to the next painting. Ready?
Oh, this. Oh, I know. Oh, this is Well, it's signed in the bottom. David.
Yeah. Jacques Louis David.
Yeah,
Okay. Do you see that
he was
painting?
like a revolutionary or something like that, and he was
David or this guy?
the guy that's depicted. He has something to do with like the French
Yeah.
Revolution, right?
Yeah. I forget too. But yeah, it was something with the French Revolution. All right. Next painting.
Van Gogh.
Van Gogh. All right.
Obviously, yeah.
Next painting,
Oh, Jackson Pollock.
Jackson Pollock. And then
Yeah, he's the
last
worst.
painting. Ready?
Yeah. I don't know, but Rothko.
No. Famous New York artist from the 80s and 90s.
Oh
Actually,
my
no,
goodness.
he died in 89, I think.
Is it? Oh my gosh! And he thought he was like famous. He was kind of a pop sensation, and he did all like the Marilyn Monroe artwork.
N-
Um,
no, but he studied under him.
Andy Warhol.
He studied under Andy Warhol. He was
Studied
like
under Andy Warhol.
close with Andy Warhol. He's
Can you
probably
give
the
me?
least. No, he's definitely the least famous of all of these artists. Basquiat.
Oh, I wouldn't have known that. No.
You never studied Basquiat?
Um, Maybe if we did, I don't remember. I've never seen this painting before.
So the reason why I chose all these
I know the
paintings,
movement. I bet the movement's abstract expressionism.
I don't even know that. So um, I don't know. He was kind of a weird guy. But so I chose all of these paintings because these are some of like the most. These are some of the most priceless paintings in the world. Like they all went to auction. These are all individually auctioned except for I think the David painting, this one.
Mm.
But they all went for like millions and millions of dollars. So what I want you to do, if you can, I want you to rank these from your favorite to your least favorite.
Oh, this is fun. Okay.
So first, remember just to go back: Da Vinci,
Da Vinci,
David,
Da Vinci.
Van Gogh,
No.
Pollock,
Yeah.
and Basquiat.
Okay. I'm gonna say my favorite is I'm gonna say David. Um,
All right.
then I'm gonna say, oh, I'm not going off of content because obviously if I was going off of like subject matter, obviously Jesus would be my favorite. But I'm just going off style, like that's what I should be choosing, right?
On
Like
the way that I explain it to my students is the pieces that you like the most. There doesn't need to be an explanation for it.
okay, well then I'm gonna say David and then Van Gogh and then Da Vinci.
Van Gogh,
Um,
and then Da Vinci,
yeah, and then the last New York artist, I can't pronounce the name,
Basquiat.
Basquiat, and then absolutely last is Jackson Pollock, for sure.
Okay. So when I did this with my students, I had them all. I had them based on their rankings. I had them move to different places in the room, and it turns out that you had a bunch of different combinations. Like none of them was like a unanimous or consensus favorite or least favorite. Like it was pretty much even. Like some were more popular than others.
Well, if any of your students said Pollock was their favorite, you need to fail them. I'm sorry,
There
that
were a
is
lot.
objectively hideous.
It
Oh,
really
of
it
course they
depended on the
would.
class, but there was a lot.
Oh no, that's
But
really just. I'm sorry.
okay, so here's what I want to do. I want to go through this your rankings. So you said David is your favorite,
Favorite
then Van Gogh,
Van Gogh,
then Da Vinci,
Da Vinci.
then Basquiat,
Yep.
and then Pollock.
Yeah.
So because you're an authority on art in
I
our
am.
class,
I am.
there has to be an explanation as to why you have that ranking. Well,
Okay. Ooh.
first, why, what's so bad about this painting? What's so bad about Pollock?
Well, it looks like someone gave a toddler a paintbrush and a bucket of paint, and they kind of just started flinging it everywhere with no intention, rhyme, or reason. I know that like everyone's probably gonna jump all over me for this. There was intention, like he had it. There was a point to it. I know the point. I've studied Jackson Pollock's paintings before. I know actually there's he, he it was supposed to be sort of a dance. Like his paintings were supposed to capture a moment in time. He wasn't trying to create a painting. He was trying to capture like movement in a dance. So it was more of like a recording of his motion in a sense. It's like a recording. It also, he connected it with um, Navajo, Native American Navajo sand art and the way they drew in the sand and like tribal dances and things like that. Because I think he lived way out. He was in a secluded, rural, isolated area. Um, so he had some connection with the land. So I know
So
all
so
his
you
intentions,
so
but it
you know
doesn't
that there's
look like
intention
it.
behind it.
I know there's intention behind it. I just think that if I didn't know anything about um, Jackson Pollock and I just came across this painting in a museum and knew nothing about it, I would have no idea what it meant. I only know what it means because I had to study it. And I feel like art, speak for itself. And if art is about visuals, it's about the eye. You're not reading a book. You shouldn't have to read or research anything to understand a painting. Artwork, you should just come upon it and you should just understand it. And I think that because I don't know what this is, I don't get it until I have to research it first, then it kind of fails at the point of art. The point of art being to convey meaning through something visual alone, you know. Um, I also think that it, if and people will say, well, you can approach this painting and derive any meaning you want from it. You know, it'll mean something different for everyone. I know that's going to be the argument, but I think that if everyone gets something different from it, then it doesn't really mean anything at all inherently. It has no inherent meaning. It only has meaning that you give to it. So therefore, the painting really doesn't have any meaning. Or if it does, the artist failed in getting it across to the viewer. So that's why it's my least favorite. Also, besides that it has no meaning, I don't, honestly, I don't mind things not having meaning. I just like for things to be pretty, mostly. Um, like I don't care if my bed comforter has meaning. I just want it to be pretty. Um, when it comes to art, I do think it should have meaning, as opposed to a bed comforter. But it's not even pretty. It's not even that. Not only does it have no meaning, but it's actually kind of hideous to look at.
So that's kind of weird because I agree with you 100% on what you just said, but I find Pollock's works aesthetically pleasing for whatever reason. I can't explain it. I think the
Yeah,
colors in
but
this one are ugly, but I only chose this one, this one of his works, because it was the one that was auctioned off for the most amount of money, which was like 100 million or something crazy like that. But so you and I have talked a lot about art, I feel like, um, but I don't think I was trying to think about this. I don't think I know if you have like a favorite artist or a favorite piece of art.
oh, and we're talking like strictly either like sculptural or two-dimensional paintings, drawings. I'm not talking about like music
Yeah.
or
So
film, because film would be
quick note.
Titanic. You know that.
So quick note, you studied 3D art. You were a sculpture major. So
Yes.
you didn't really do like painting or anything like that. You studied it, but and you did 2D, which I'll talk about in a bit. But you were definitely more of a 3D person. But regarding 2D art, specifically painting, do you have a favorite painting?
Okay, I know I do. Let me think. Um, I really love, it's probably going to be an Impressionist painting. I think the Impressionist paintings are really beautiful. It's probably going to be by Monet. You know what? No, I'm not going to say Monet. I'm going to say, it's called, remember, I think you may have studied this, A Sunday Afternoon on the Island of
Oh yeah, yeah, for
Jean
sure.
Dejas. It's the Pointillism painting by Seurat or Seurat. I don't know how you pronounce it. George Seurat or Seurat. That is one of my favorite paintings.
Raw. Oh gosh, let's see. Let me move us out of the way. Okay, so that's pretty interesting to me. that is your favorite painting. Um, so this just gives us a context of how you're judging this.
Yeah.
Why is this your favorite?
Yeah, because based on what I said, my absolute favorite painting of all time was, you probably think, well, Van Gogh's probably his favorite because it's slightly more abstract, but also it's recognizable. The reason why
Oh,
that one's
wait, before you answer. So I remember, so you and I studied art and architecture in Rome. Um, and we went to the Villa Borghese one time with our class. And we went to the
oh,
sculpture,
yeah.
I think it was,
If you ask me what my favorite sculpture is, I can tell you what my favorite sculpture is. Boom, know what it is. Ready? That's in the back. Are you about to ask me what my favorite sculpture is?
well, no, but go ahead and answer.
Okay, the Apollo and Daphne. Your
So
students need to know, they need to know this. You need to bring that up on the screen right now. Oh my gosh. That is by
Bernini, right?
Bernini. Yeah.
So you, so we went as a class. Here's
This is PG-13 rated. Are they allowed to see this?
in for the sake of art, sure.
Okay.
Um, I don't deal with little kids; they're adults. They
Oh,
act
nice.
like little kids, but they're adults. Um, there. So we went to the Villa Borghese in Rome, and we went to this sculpture as a class, and our professor, Dr. Robinson, right? I can't believe
Yes.
I'm forgetting her name. It's been so long. Dr.
I didn't
Robinson,
know it until you just brought it up.
Dr. Robinson said she had you give like an art analysis of this while we were there. Do you remember that?
Oh my gosh, that was so embarrassing.
But you
Yes,
did
yes,
a
yes.
so you uh, to give a little context, you're very
I can
silly
move a
about a
bit
lot of
differently when
things.
I have to.
You're very lighthearted, but when you started doing the art analysis, I was super impressed because I was like, oh wow, he really knows his art. So what I want you to do is I want you to do an analysis of this painting and why it was your favorite. Because when I was telling my students my rankings, this is probably my favorite painting of all time.
Really?
Yeah.
And I just chose it as my favorite out of this list?
Mhm.
Okay, well, great minds think alike. Noted.
Mhm.
So why is it my favorite? Okay, so I do appreciate, some hyperrealism. Obviously, this person understands the human form, the human body. Um, I mean, being able to capture something realistically is really hard to do. I mean, that just takes years and years of practice and experience. I'm still, I, I mean, I've been studying art. I've been taking art since I was in kindergarten. Did it all throughout high school, middle school, and college, and still couldn't produce something like this. Um, so just the technical skill, I appreciate and find impressive. Um, then you're probably wondering, well, the image of Jesus is just as realistic as this one, but this one also just has it. The person didn't just paint it just like, here's a realistic image of what happened. They did add their own like artistic flair to it, and there's some things that they did that um where they added to the scene. Oh wait, hey, someone's walking out. Hey mom. But do you want to say hi to all of Anthony's students?
That's
Oh yeah.
Travis's mom. So Travis lives in Dallas. Travis lives and works in Dallas. He went back down to Bryan College Station, where Texas A&M is. That's where he's from. So he's back at home.
Okay. So why do I like this painting? I like this painting because so that the artist added their own elements to it more than what they're just seeing. They probably had a model, and this model's probably actually sitting in a bathtub with this cloth draped around them, and there probably really was and it was all just like based on the artist was probably painting from real life. But I think the artist probably also added some things that weren't there in real life. For example, like the super dramatic lighting. I think the word for that is either called chiaroscuro or tenebrism. This probably rings a bell to you, Anthony. Um,
Chiaroscuro definitely does.
Yeah,
I don't.
chiaroscuro.
I
So
remember studying tenebrism, but I don't remember what it is.
it's similar. It
I
has to do
I
something
don't.
with highlights and lowlights.
Yeah, I think this is probably more indicative of tenebrism then, because when I th- when I think of chiaroscuro, I think of oh, what's that famous painter? Italian.
Um, oh, and he did the image of like Jesus at with the apostles,
Yeah, super famous. I should know his name. I'm just blanking on it right now. Um,
and there's a light coming in through that window, and it's illuminating
yeah, like the
Jesus.
Call of Saint Matthew.
Yes, 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 yes. And there's also like he did the ones where he showed the authors of the New Testament, writing scripture, and then like the angel above inspiring them.
Yeah, that was Saint Jerome. Oh my gosh, all of his works is in the Chiesa San Luigi Chiesa in Rome. Oh my gosh,
Caravaggio.
Caravaggio. There we go. Yeah, yeah. So I don't think this is really chiaroscuro, because that's more like light and dark, and this is more just
Like
this
there's a
is
there's a strong tension between like really highlighted areas and really low lighted areas. Like on his shoulders, um, on his forearm that's holding the paper, and then on top of his head, um, and then those dark shadows, like the shadow that's being cast by the wooden box, um, by some of the folds in the drapery. The background's really dark, so I just appreciate the drama. I mean, this is obviously supposed to be like a super dramatic piece. I appreciate the drama of it.
yeah.
His arms dangling over the edge. He's I think he was murdered. He was murdered in his bathtub. It wasn't
hmm
suicide.
Yeah.
Um, like he's still clutching his pen and paper. You know. So I appreciate the drama of it.
So do you think? Let me exit out of this. Do you think? So we just finished last week. We studied relativism in the context of ethics, and art is it's one of those things that's really hard to analyze or to use analytic judgment towards. Do you think that there's any objectivity in art?
Um, yeah, my personal opinion is yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you think that's do you think that's a result of
Well, see, as soon as I say my personal opinion is, now I'm talking in relative terms. I believe objectively, yes.
but do you think that's a result of
It's
us
objectivity.
us going to the same college and just being taught that?
I think that going to college where we did, actually, you know what? No, because I feel like our art department, the art department specifically, was not. It didn't have the same. The art professors did not have the same philosophy
Oh, for
as
sure. Like
like
it was
art
a totally
philosophy.
different world.
Yeah, it's a totally different world. I would say all my art, everyone I encountered in the art department was probably a relativist. Um, I kind of just had to develop my own opinion about art. Honestly, the reason why I think all UD did was help me to articulate an opinion I already had. I didn't even know what the words like relativism or objectivity meant before going to UD. But I always had like ever since I was little. I think it's kind of innate. I think you kind of know when artwork is a bunch of BS and when it actually means something. Um, I think that's innate. It's intuitive. Um, and I think everyone kind of knows it deep down. I mean, like just so I am an art teacher, and we do mostly studio art, meaning I teach my students how to do art, like drawing, painting, whatever. But I also infuse art history um, regularly into the curriculum, and we've looked at a lot of paintings. And every time I show a painting of something completely abstract, like this is a blank canvas, or this is a, you know, like, or I showed them Jackson Pollock or other contemporary artists where it's completely abstract. You don't recognize anything in it from the real world. No figures, no plants, no tree, nothing you would know what it is. It's just like forms and shapes and blobs or whatever of color and line. My students' reaction is always, what does it mean? We don't get it. This is stupid. It doesn't make any sense. And I think it's because we naturally want meaning in something. We're looking for meaning in something. We think it should have a meaning. And it's kind of disappointing or uncomfortable when it doesn't. And I think, and some people may argue, well, that's the intention of some of these artists who make completely abstract, unrecognizable artwork. They want to confuse. Okay, well, if that's your intention, then you did it. Congratulations. But if your intention, you know, we studied this one artist, I think his name was Sochi. No, not Sochi. He was from Armenia. But anyways, his artworks were completely abstract. And one of his artworks was called Garden in Sochi. I mean, it doesn't look like a garden at all. And before I told my students anything about the history of the piece, I just asked them, what do you see in it? And they were like, I see like a McDonald's sign. I think there's a cow in the upper left-hand corner. I, anyways, some people saw
Yeah.
faces, whatever. It looked nothing like a garden. So I think that's why I think I'm not saying all artwork has objective meaning. I just think it should. I think that's the point.
Yeah, and at least last semester when we were studying sacraments, I always brought up Duchamp's fountain. You know Duchamp's fountain?
Oh, no, it's a urinal.
Well, so the immediate reaction, the gut reaction to that, even like among my students, and this kind of applies to Pollock in the same way, the immediate reaction is, oh my, it's like anger. It's like, that's not art. That's just putting a urinal on its side. But then it's only when people start thinking, well, it could be whatever you want it to be. That takes a while for people to start understanding. I feel like that's not a gut reaction. Your gut reaction is either I love that or I hate it. When it comes to those like Pollock and Duchamp.
Yeah, I think that like your gut reaction should be you can recognize something in it and relate to it, and it has some meaning. Like for example, like let's take for example Christian art. I mean, obviously, as a Christian, looking at Christian art, I'm going to know automatically what it means. You know, okay, that's Jesus and his mother Mary, and it's the Pietà. She's holding him after he's been taken down off the cross. And I know all the meaning behind that. But for someone who's not even a Christian, I think when they look at Christian art, they still can recognize something in it because it's not completely abstract. They see a mother holding her son who's dead. I mean, everyone can relate to that, especially, I mean, everyone relates to sorrow and pain and loss. Mothers will definitely relate to that if they've ever lost a child before. I think that when people look at a urinal, I mean, I guess everyone can relate to it in the sense that they go, oh, that's a urinal. Like, we know what urinating is. But I think when it's put in the context of art, people are like, okay, well, now it means more than just urinating. But I have no idea because it smells like a urinal. It looks like a urinal, feels like a urinal, acts like a urinal, but it's not supposed to be a urinal. So what the heck does it mean? Because now we put it in an art museum. And I think that's confusing. I think the argument for that artwork is it's trying to redefine what art means. It's not supposed to have any other meaning besides getting you to think and think about what art is and what art means. And so I guess if you want to call it a thought experiment, I can accept that with Duchamp's urinal. But if you're trying to say it's art in the classical sense of what art means, meaning like something that is aesthetically beautiful and conveys a meaning that everyone can understand and pretty much be on the same page with, then no. It doesn't really have any meaning. It's just trying to get you to think about the meaning of art. That's my problem with a lot of modern art. I feel like all it does is it's trying to redefine art or undermine our understanding of art as we know it. I think it's just meant to kind of discombobulate and confuse.
Yeah, I would agree, but I have a feeling I have a lot of students who would disagree with that as well. Um,
Right.
I'm totally on the side of objective beauty and objective goodness, but so that kind of brings me to the whole point of this. So we studied art and architecture together, but the first class you and I ever took together was literary tradition 2. Do you remember that
Oh
class
yeah. Oh, what
with
was her name?
Professor
The
Niebuhr?
shy, poor, feeble little thing.
Yeah, Professor Niebuhr.
Niebuhr, yeah, yeah, yeah. She
Um,
was great.
and that was the class that we read Dante's Divine Comedy, which is what I've been going through it with my classes. We went through Inferno, we went through Purgatorio, and now we're getting into Paradiso. This was a required class that all students at the University of Dallas have to take. Everybody has to read Dante. I didn't really read it when I was. I mean, I liked it, but I didn't read it like completely. Do you remember the Divine Comedy at all?
Okay, that was when it was broken up into 3 parts, and there was, you probably just said all this, the Inferno, the Purgatorio, Paradiso, and I do remember. I remember Contrapasto. No,
Yeah, Contrapasso.
what does
Yeah,
it sound like? Contrapasto. Is it Contrapasto?
Contrapasso. No T.
Okay, contrapposto is an artistic term where like you're standing with your hip to the side. Contrapposto is the thing in Dante's Inferno, right?
Yeah, it's like a reverse punishment.
Yes, yes, yes. Or like an ironic punishment. Like, for example, if like you struggled with vanity, that was your sin, that was your vice, then like for all eternity in hell, you're like forced to look at yourself in a mirror, but you see like a hideous reflection. That was contrapposto, right?
Yeah, yeah, something like
Okay.
that. Yeah. Um, so, boy,
Did I say
we're gonna really embarrass the University of Dallas with this discussion based on how little we remember.
they're never gonna know about it? It's fine. Your students probably think we're so smart. Like everything we're saying, like they don't know how dumb we are.
Uh, I don't know about
They
that.
don't know that we're pulling this like completely out of. Oh, wait, sorry. Right. Keep it PG. Keep it PG.
um, so there is so we're coming into Paradiso, and this is the moment. Do you remember Dante and Beatrice? Do you remember Beatrice?
Yes, Beatrice was already a slave, right, and she was leading him through all these levels.
Not all of them, just Paradiso. He was being led by Virgil through the first two, through Inferno and Purgatorio. But like
Right.
Dante was like super in love with Beatrice, and she had died when they were really young. Any of this
Yes.
ringing a bell?
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
No, really,
So
I do. Actually, I do remember that.
good. So in Paradiso, slowly, so in out of the 3 books, um, Inferno is definitely the most popular. Like everybody talks about Inferno. Um, and then Paradiso is kind of,
I think it's the most daunting. Okay, edit that one
yeah,
out.
I'm gonna
Edit
edit
that
that
one out.
out.
For sure. Thank you. But it was kind of smart. Okay, anyways. So yeah, yeah. Dante's Inferno,
um, yeah,
everyone's favorite.
Inferno most popular. Um, and then Paradiso is like, it's kind of popular, and then Purgatorio nobody studies. But as you progress, like I think the reason why Inferno is so popular is because it's so easy to understand. Like it's essentially just a story of a guy on a journey through hell, and then Paradiso gets like, and then Purgatorio is a little less easy to understand, and then Paradiso is this weird story where it's really difficult to understand because he talks a lot, but it doesn't feel like he's getting across an image of heaven. Like he's not really describing heaven. He's just talking about how he feels while he's in heaven. So it gets harder to follow and understand as we go along through the Divine Comedy, and then Paradiso is this really weird thing. Um, but so people who study Paradiso say that what Dante is doing is kind of like an early version of the modern artist. He's saying that kind of less is more. The less you describe it, the more the image that
Right.
you create in your mind
Hmm.
is evolves.
Okay. Yes, I get where you're going with
Do
this. Yeah.
you do you agree with that phrase less is more?
When it comes to Charmin Ultra,
Um,
Um,
gosh, I'm gonna have to edit all of these jokes out. They're
no,
terrible.
Anthony, that one was funny. Your students will laugh at that one. That one was good. That was like
Nobody,
Joan Rivers quality.
nobody even
Okay,
watches commercials anymore. Commercials are obsolete.
okay. I'll stop trying to be funny. Oh my gosh, why am I already such a dork and like trying to? Okay, it used to be cool. I think less is more to an extent. Like, yes, less is more. I think, yeah, artwork is most. Are we talking about artwork specifically, right? Or writing as well?
I would say writing as well too, because I sometimes when I get papers from students, they're using vocabulary that they wouldn't use in normal everyday life, and it just feels like it's forced. If you just
Yeah.
like, I would much rather have a well-written, authentic paragraph than a 5-page paper that's using big words that don't make sense together.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think when it's easy to over explain things in writing, like, well, yeah. I definitely, yes, I do think less is more. Um, to an extent. Like, if you've gone so like minimalist that now people no longer understand what you're saying, then like you've gone too minimal and now like there's no meaning at all. So like this is a hard thing to articulate. You are successful when you've conveyed as much meaning as possible with as little um, writing, painting, drawing as possible. And like you've maximized meaning, but minimized what you're offering to the viewer. But as soon as like you get to that point where like you haven't offered enough and the meaning's lost, you got to bring a little bit more, offer a little bit more, like writing, like figures in the artwork, whatever. So minimalism to an extent, there's a balance there. But like I would say when it comes to art, I don't know if less is always more. I mean, I think the point of some art is like, yes, artwork has a dualistic meaning. It's meant to convey meaning. So when it comes to meaning, the less you can do while still conveying the fullness of that meaning, the better. But then when it comes to beauty, I don't know if less is always more. Like, sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Like when um
So
like
here's
some
here's
paintings are meant to be like grandiose and like have a lot of color and texture and like be really flamboyant, and it is supposed to overwhelm this not more, but then like Georgia O'Keeffe, who would like zoom in on one flower and like paint that way up close. I see that is minimal, but it's still really really beautiful. But when it comes to writing, for sure, less is more. I think like that's the point of writing. Like that's what we always learned in writing. Like, write your rough draft. Going from your rough draft to your final draft, you should be like chopping a lot of stuff out that you don't need. Like, I realize I don't need that. Like, I realize I can actually say this in fewer words, or actually, as I'm being repetitive, I've already said this. You're trying to convey the same amount of meaning, but with less.
Yeah, so I have a lot of time on my hands. So I've been watching videos of like architecture on YouTube. Uh, and so just for some context, before you came to the University of Dallas, before you transferred in, you spent a year at Texas A&M studying architecture. Now you were an architecture student. Did you study architecture or did you just practice architecture? Because I know you were like designing and stuff immediately, but did you ever spend time studying it?
Yeah, we did. I think I was at A&M studying architecture for 1 year, 2 semesters, and both semesters I was taking um, an architecture history class. Yeah.
So in in these videos that I'm watching, it's pretty interesting and fascinating, but like for modern art and for modern architecture, what a lot of people, what a lot of architects are doing now when they're giving a tour of this place that they designed, and they're explaining like why they designed it a certain way, they always repeat this phrase, less is more. um, like I want to keep it like, I want to make it as minimal as possible without sacrificing, whatever. But what comes, I don't know, I think for the most part modern architecture is kind of ugly. Would you agree with that?
Um, that philosophy that less is more is definitely in style now when it comes to architecture. Um,
Or just like everything is a variation of a rectangle. There's no detail anymore.
yeah,
Like
no, no,
I
no.
I walk
It's
I walk through
very,
downtown Salt Lake City, and the modern buildings are boring, and I don't remember them, but there's a couple of buildings that are like, you know, that were built in like the 1920s that are skyscrapers, and they're essentially urban, and urban architecture is often associated with modern. But because these buildings were created at a time where that less is more mantra wasn't followed, they actually tend to be pretty beautiful buildings, and they're pleasant to look at. And I remember one time I went downtown Salt Lake City with my sister, and this random couple stopped me in the street, and they were staring at these two buildings that are kind of mirror each other. um, my students probably know what these buildings are. I don't know what they are, but they mirror each other, and they're sort of that, you know that New York style downtown architecture from like the 20s and 30s. And like it the, these two buildings are so beautiful that it stopped the couple in their tracks, and they stopped me and said, "Hey, do you know what these buildings are?" They wouldn't have done that to like the Wells Fargo building, which is just glass and squares, right?
no. Um, see, that's my issue with like a lot of modern art. Is I think the thing that you just pointed out, which is I think like people like it because it like makes you think about what art means, or kind of like undermines like tradition. I think we have that natural like rebel in us. um I think like especially young people like definitely go through a phase where, like they like the artwork where it's like, paint splattered on a canvas and it just looks like angry emotion or something, because um but I think what really like has longevity, and what people really go back to look at for generations and generations, is stuff that we all know is like truly beautiful. Um, and I think that like a super utilitarian, square, rectilinear building with no detail, I mean, I think it's cool for a second, like, oh, look how this person's defying all the norms, and look how it's so minimal. And all this architect cared about was function, 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 and there's no beauty. And it's so sleek and whatever. Um, but like, people don't go back to visit that, you know, for generations. You know, people are still obsessed with European art and architecture, like classical European art and architecture. Um,
Right. So
so
I
yeah, I
think
see. But I
so.
think there
This
is some modern art. There is some modern architecture which is minimal, but it's still interesting and beautiful, and I actually really, really like it. What's his name? He did. He does. Oh, Frank Gehry. Tell your students look up Frank Gehry. But Frank Gehry did like the Disney Opera House. Like he does all that super curvilinear
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
architecture, and that's minimal. But I would say that's actually really cool and really interesting to look at. And I do think that's architecture that people will go back. So I'm not saying like artwork can't be sleek and it can't be modern. It has to be like frilly and detailed and organic in nature. It can still be like very modern looking, but I still want it to be interesting.
Yeah, so based on what you just said, my issue with like modernity and definitely post-modernity is that they have totally abandoned what we've done in the past, rather than building off of it. So their philosophy is kind of just tear it down entirely and then rebuild something completely new. And so there's a couple of things that I want to talk about with
Yeah, I don't mind that. I don't mind that as long as what you're rebuilding is as good or superior to what was before. I think the problem is, like, if someone came up with
but then
something
they
completely
think
new, but
that
it was
what they've
awesome, that'd be
created is
great.
superior.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Generally, I mean,
That
you
that
wouldn't
is
create something unless you think it's. I mean, they stand by their work. Modern artists and architects stand by their work, so clearly they think that what they did was good.
yeah.
So that gets me into a couple of things at Dante. First, so he starts off Paradiso, and Dante is like this devout Catholic. It's all about heaven and trying to meet God, but he starts out the book with a prayer to Apollo, the god Apollo, which seems kind of weird, because he is Catholic. But what he's doing, or what have people who study Dante have realized about this, is that he's sort of making a statement of building off of the past and how people used to invoke the muses and invoke gods to inspire their works before it began. And so he's sort of, this is like a callback to the past that he's built up. He's not like starting something completely new. Um, so this, I won't, this is going to get me into something else regarding art. So we went to the University of Dallas, and you talked about how, the art department was a little bit unique in relation to the rest of the school. But just to give the context of the school, the University of Dallas is a very, very Catholic college. Like almost everybody who goes there is very devoutly Catholic. Um, but you took an art class at UD that very few students know about, called Human Figure.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Ooh, very controversial. Yeah.
Well, it would be, it would tend to be controversial to like
It actually was
prudes.
controversial because, like, although we were like hyper modest there.
Well, first explain what the Human Figure class was.
Oh, we're drawing naked people.
Yeah.
We're drawing the human form.
Like models would come in and they would take off all their clothes and you try to draw them. And
Right.
what was her name?
And they were
Kim.
not always attractive.
What was the professor's name? Kim.
It was actually not Kim Owens. It was Fouch.
Okay,
Professor.
so actually the print making professor.
Yeah.
Um, well, no, Kim Owens taught that class every once in a while, right? Maybe you
Not
took it under
yeah.
Fouch.
Yeah, I took it under Fouch. Maybe she does. I think they all took turns.
So I remember something, I wasn't an art student, but I had friends who were art majors and I spent a lot of time in the art village. I remember hearing that Kim Owens was really, really strict about not drawing from pictures and specifically
Yeah.
drawing from figures. So like
Yes.
you needed,
Bad habit. Don't draw
yeah.
from a picture.
And
That's
why is
cheating.
that?
Because it's cheating. Because it's too easy. Because you're just translating something two-dimensional to be two-dimensional again. And also it's cheating in that sense because your brain's not having to take something that's three-dimensional, make it two-dimensional, but while still looking three-dimensional. And also when you're drawing from a picture, the picture stays perfectly still, it never changes. And what's challenging about drawing from real life is like you're drawing a real model. Yeah, their job is to stay still, but you're not staying still because you're standing up, drawing an easel, you're kind of moving back and forth. They can't be perfectly still. Also, they take breaks. So, they'll get up and go to the bathroom, whatever, and then they'll come back and, continue the same drawing, and they're probably not going to be in the exact same position. So it's just like kind of a cop out to draw from a picture.
You need those naked people.
I've done it. I'm guilty as charged, but it's a cop out.
Yeah, so you need those naked people in the classroom.
You need the naked people. Yeah.
So I feel like UD, even though it's super Catholic, I feel like we put like art on a pedestal, and we really, I mean, think of all the classical art that depicts nude figures. Like
Pretty
even,
much all of it.
yeah, like Michelangelo's David. It's not like we're claiming that that's pornography or something.
No.
But you probably get a lot of, not a lot, but you definitely have your community of people who would go into an uproar if they knew if they knew that human figure was a class that was offered.
I don't think they would. I think like that's what I was saying earlier. Although we're modest, being Christian, it's just kind of like one of the major themes in Christianity that you have an incredible respect for the human person and for the beauty of the human person, because we are creating God's image and likeness, and we know that our bodies are good and beautiful. It's just that we don't always have the ability to see the beauty and the goodness of our bodies or other bodies because we've been tainted by sin. So instead of looking at a beautiful image of a nude person and thinking like, wow, they're so beautiful, like we objectify them and degrade them, and we make pornography out of beautiful things. It's what we've done with beautiful bodies, in sex, which is inherently beautiful, is we've made it pornographic. So no, I don't think, and I think that because the point of that class is to understand the human body in a non-pornographic way, and just understanding like the human form and trying to capture it accurately, it's very respectful of the human body. I don't think this would have a problem with it at all. I
Well,
think
the
it's
school definitely
completely
not, but you have some what we call long skirts who might be a little bit uncomfortable with the
no.
class.
But I'm saying even those. I don't think they have a problem. I mean, maybe they wouldn't take it themselves, but I don't think they would.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
shame anyone else.
that's
I think they'd get the point of it and
right.
understand that it's not degrading.
Right. So that gets me into two. That class makes me want to talk about two things. One, I feel like that class is getting in touch with our roots. Like again, all this classical art is based on the nude figure, and um, you you get this point, especially in like the 17 and the 1800s in Christianity, where you had all of these different denominations and sects that start to become like super prudish and say sex is bad, the body is bad, anything that's like, you know, anything, all of your desires are bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like because this like UD was still a Catholic school, even if the art department and the art village was kind of its own unique thing, it had to fall under the philosophy of the school. And so the art classes, specifically the human figure, is like, it's not forgetting your roots. It's not forgetting like how you started, what built up to this point in history, this point in art history, this point in the history of architecture. Like it's keeping you in contact with the past, which is something that I feel like modernity and just society in general is saying no to right now. But then also, so Dante, this is pretty much a consensus among scholars of the Divine Comedy. The journey from hell to heaven that Dante takes, they say that the journey itself is the journey of desire. So we just finished off another class that we had to take at UD was philosophy and the ethical life. And you and I weren't in the same class, but we had the same professor. That was Professor, what was her name? She was young, blonde.
Vulnerable. It's like, oh my gosh, it
Venable,
sounded like
Venable,
venerable.
not vulnerable, but yeah,
Like vulnerable or
Venable.
venerable. I know it sounds like an actual word. Yeah. What was it?
So, Venable.
Venerable. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
she was good. I liked her, but I didn't learn anything from my undergrad philosophy classes just because I don't know. I wasn't as appreciative of it as I am now. But somebody that we
You're
studied
right.
in that class, and then so we had to take 3 philosophy classes: philosophy in the ethical life, the human person,
Mm-hmm.
and what was that
Being.
last? Yeah,
Philosophy of
philosophy
being.
of being. So all 3 of those, I feel like we studied Immanuel Kant, And I kind of forgot about Immanuel Kant until I came back to philosophy when I was teaching it. But something that Immanuel Kant says is that, your entire life. So Aristotle says that a good life is a life based on virtue, and virtue leads to happiness, true happiness, and happiness is your telos, and telos is the destination. What Kant says is that the journey is actually the more important thing.
That's what Dante's saying, is the journey is the more important thing.
Well, so it's me tying Dante into what we're studying right now in my class, which is Immanuel Kant. We're studying Kantianism. And so if Dante is saying that the journey is desire, his journey is desire, and what does the human person desire? And he's learning about he's coming in contact with all of these other people while he's on his way to heaven, and all of them are talking to him about the choices that they made on earth, about what they desired. Like when he's in the circle of hell that deals with lust, he's talking to people who desired, bodily pleasures. When he's in the circle of purgatory that deals with greed, he's talking about the desire of material possessions. And then when he gets to eventually, we haven't gotten to this point in my class, but when he gets to the circles of heaven and he comes across the saints, they talk about their desire for God, which is what led them there. It wasn't their desire for earthly things, but it was the desire for God. And so we can only take the journey of desire, the things that we desire, we only know about them through bodily things, like the flesh, including, and I would say even our desire for God is based on our human bodies, like our physical being. This ties back to what we studied last semester in sacraments, how like you can't separate the body from the soul, like they're one thing. And art studies the bodily. Dante is dealing with the bodily. In fact, when he gets into Paradiso, when he gets into heaven for the first time, he's kind of like, wait, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm still a body. All of these other people are just spirits. And then ethics deals specifically with the body, which is the whole class that we're taking. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to tie the study of art, I'm trying to tie that in with Dante's journey through hell, purgatory, and heaven. And then I'm trying to tie all of those things together with studying ethics and like what makes a life worth living.
Okay. I get where you're. Yeah.
You think
I think I get.
What were you gonna say?
Nothing yet.
Okay.
I'm waiting for you to ask me a specific question. I mean, I'm just saying yes. I concur
So
with where
I'm
you're.
just saying all of this for my students, just to tie these things together, to give them, to give them more context. Do you think that ethics has to be? Well, I don't. How do I phrase this question? What do you think? Like the purpose? We studied ethics. We studied philosophy and the ethical life. What do you think the purpose of ethics is?
Okay, so basically, what's the purpose of virtue?
Well,
Or like
it
having virtue?
Well, it depends because only Aristotle equates ethics with virtue, but
Are you asking me like what's the purpose of the class philosophy of ethics, or like what's the purpose of ethics?
what's the
Like,
purpose of ethics?
like
Separate
what's
the
the purpose of
class.
living an ethical life?
Yeah.
The purpose of living an ethical life, I would agree with what um, Aristotle said. Like the purpose of living an ethical life is to be happy. Like happiness is the point of everything. Like it's the point of every single thing that we do. We that is the greatest desire of our heart. Like we are happiness seeking creatures. And like what I mean by happiness is not like pleasure seeking creatures. I mean, we do seek pleasure, but like ultimately what we want is true happiness. Like long-lasting happiness in the sense of like true peace, true fulfillment, joy, like living in that utter state of bliss where like you're completely fulfilled. And that would be, heaven, obviously. But like that is the point of everything that we do. Like, I mean, there's not even like one micro action you take in the day that is not ultimately for the purpose of being happy. I mean, even if it's seemingly a mundane thing like brushing your teeth, ultimately that's to be happy. I mean, you brush your teeth so that way you can like be presentable at work. You want to be presentable at work so you can have a job. You want to have a job so you can have money and provide for your family. You want to have a family because your family makes you happy. So even brushing your teeth is about being happy, ultimately.
Right. So how would you respond to so Aristotle, that's exactly what Aristotle says, but how would you respond to somebody who says, well, I believe this makes me happy, so I'm going to do it? Like there's a school of philosophy called hedonism where it teaches, hey, if you have a desire, doesn't matter if it's good or bad or what the consequences lead to, you follow it because you're desiring it, and your desires are oriented towards your own happiness.
So I would say that the rule is still true for hedonism. The rule being we all desire and seek happiness. That's consistent. Even people, now that doesn't mean that we always get it right. We can do things that we think are going to make us happy. So we're still pursuing happiness. That's still the rule, but we miscalculate. We're wrong. We make an error in what we think is going to make us happy. So hedonist, they're seeking happiness just like everyone else, but I think that they have made a mistake. Whoa, there's a bee right in my face. It's gone. But they make them, but they're wrong. What they chose ultimately doesn't make them happy. I mean, I think that's the definition of sin, right? Sin means to miss the mark, or it means to miscalculate. It means to make an error. I think all sin is just making a mistake about what you think is going to make you happy. You know, like for example, the sin of. By the way, is all this wind? Can you hear it? And is it making me
Very
hard
little,
to?
very little.
Okay. Like for example, the sin of looking at pornography. Like no one looks at pornography to be miserable. You look at it because you think it's going to bring you happiness, it's going to bring you some gratification, there's something pleasurable about it. So it's still true you're watching it to be happy, but ultimately it brings about your destruction. Ultimately it makes you miserable. Ultimately it ends up it doesn't fulfill you. It's a lie. It doesn't fulfill what it promises it's going to fill. It says it's going to make you happy, but in the long term it doesn't.
Yeah, like all of these things,
That's more empty than
it's
you
not
know.
like it's super evil or there's like a little demon whispering things in your ears. It's just like it makes life just kind of meaningless and unfulfilling.
Yeah. Good in the moment, bad in the long term.
Right, right. And so yeah, Aristotle, we covered Aristotle too, and Aristotle says that's why you need virtue, because it leads you to true happiness, and
Yeah.
vices lead you to maybe temporary happiness, but that's not true happiness.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So art, Paradiso, ethics. We tried to tie it all together. Um, hopefully this isn't. It says it's recording. I hope it's recording. If it didn't record any of this, I'm screwed.
No, it says it's recorded on my end too. I see like a little record button. We'll
Okay.
stand by here.
I hope that works. All right, Travis. Well, thanks for hopping in. Hopefully my students watch this. Can't promise it, but
Fingers crossed. I think if they just give it like 10 seconds in, they're gonna be absolutely engaged because we are so interesting. So
what's weird is that these are the normal conversations that we usually have. Like this isn't an unusual conversation for us. They can't
wow,
stand
this
it.
is such a
Like my students hate how nerdy I am about this stuff. But like for us, it's just
oh
it's normal.
oh I'm sad that they like think these kind of discussions are mundane and boring at
No,
this point. It's
I,
such a treat for me.
I'll be fair to them.
I've
They
done this since
don't, but
I
you
lived with
know,
you.
they would much rather be doing this than like, me lecturing to them, which is why the online classes have been kind of difficult. But um,
Right.
it's not like they would be doing this with their friends in their free time. That's
Yeah.
what makes this weird.
Well, you don't know. Maybe there's some little conversations percolating out there. Very philosophical, very cerebral. You don't know.
Yeah,
Give
but
them
those
the
are just
benefit
the
of the
nerds
doubt.
who are doing that. That's not the cool kids.
I bet there's a football player out there somewhere.
No, the football players are not the cool kids. But I'll
Are
leave.
they not?
Just I'll leave it there.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. This was really fun.
Yeah, thanks, Travis.
All right. Bye.
Bye.